Hello. Good morning, everybody. Hope you guys are good. Hope you're all having a wonderful day or night, no matter where you are. All right, so we are going to talk about the Nancy Guthrie investigation, the new information that has come out, and what we all think. So before we get started, please hit that like button if you have not already done so, and please consider subscribing to the channel. If you guys are new here and you're just finding us, welcome. So happy to have you. If you are a returning viewer, so glad to have you guys back. We appreciate each and every one of you. All right, so let's get started. So we have talked about a little bit in the short lives I did yesterday about Savannah's interview and the information that she gave up during the interview. So now we're going to look at some of the information that has come about and discuss it. All opinions are welcome. Feel free to share your opinions and your thoughts in the chat. All right, let's get right into this. Ashley Banfield discusses the new detail revealed by Savannah Guthrie in the latest interview, including the back doors being propped open. But which doors? So there were 3 back doors, and it turns out that they're not sliding glass doors. They're like regular doors. Okay, so let's have a listen.
Let me tell you, from the beginning, day 3, I had a source that told me back door wide open, right? And a lot of other stuff too. But let's just focus on that for now, because that's the information I'm getting more on today. And Savannah Guthrie gave an interview to Hodokopy on the Today Show and said her sister was on the phone with her, and Savannah's in New York, saying his mom's missing. And the back doors were propped open. That's how Savannah worded it. And it seemed like maybe it was a misstatement. Nope. She said it 2 different times in the interview. Back doors propped open. Well, this sounded very different than the source that I had. Back door wide open on day 3. I've had 2 subsequent law enforcement sources since that have confirmed back door wide open. So I started thinking, and Gray Hughes has been very helpful in navigating the back of the house to determine that there are 3 back doors. Originally, I thought there were only 2 because you can't see one of them. It's real hard to see it. It's like perpendicular to the length of the house because the back patio kind of juts out towards you if you're standing in the backyard and then continues. And that door is perpendicular to the length of the house. And so I've learned that there are 2 doors on that back door to the left of the patio sofa, the one you can't see. It enters the kitchen. That door goes into the kitchen, and there are 2 doors. One is the screen door, and one is the inside door. And those were the doors, plural, that were left open. So when Savannah says the back doors were propped open, it's one entrance, but 2 doors. I had guessed that that might be what had happened, that one of the doors had a screen door or a storm door, but I didn't know which one. And it is not the one to the right of the sofa on the outdoor back patio, because there's a lovely bluish door, to the right. No screen door that we could see there. Maybe it's on the inside, I don't know. But the entryway that was left open was that one that goes in the kitchen to the left of the back patio sofa when you're looking.
Okay. So in reference to the back doors being propped open and being left propped open, so when the people, however this happened, they did not close the back doors, right? Okay, well, we have the video of Front Porch Guy. And I have talked numerous times about this video because this whole video and photo situation from these cameras has been completely ridiculous to me. But anyways, it's weird to me that so even if they went in through the back door, it's weird that they would leave the door open. The next thing, when they were leaving, that just doesn't make sense, right? It's very odd. But if you remember, what like I don't remember which day, so I don't know. But they went in and they changed the locks on the back door. They changed the locks. But they said there was no forced entry. Now I know a lot of people are speculating, well, maybe she forgot to lock her doors and that's how they got in. I don't know. They said she was sharp as a tack, so I don't know if she's gonna forget. But again, she is 84. But you know, I don't know if she necessarily forgot to unlock her or forgot to lock her door. But there's a reason that they changed the lock on that specific door. That's that's odd to me. Almost like somebody had access to a key to that door, and so they had to change it. I mean, what do you guys think about that? And it's interesting, like I said, that when they left, they did not close that back door and they left it propped open. Um, so what do you guys what do you guys think about that? Because that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. There's some aspects about this that you're like, wow. I mean, it it wasn't a dummy who did this. But then there's other things that you question, and they're like, well, if they're a straight up professional, why would they have done it like this? So I think there's a whole lot of that going on. All right. Is this the one we just? Nope. Okay.
Her beautiful flower pots that I can only imagine she spent time. Another detail that really floored me was that the perpetrator used Nancy's flower pots to do this. He took her beautiful flower pots that I can only imagine she spent time nurturing and making beautiful for her back patio, and he used them for his evil fucking plot.
Ugh.
He took her beautiful flower pots and he propped open that screen door. Remember, I also told you that my sources in law enforcement told me that the Guthrie kids had told them in law enforcement that their mom rarely locked her back doors. This might have been one of the ones that was unlocked. And
Okay.
he opened that screen door and he propped it.
I hadn't heard that, but in all honesty, I mean, that seems crazy to me. You're an 84-year-old woman living alone, and the kids are aware that she didn't lock her back door. So that's a new piece of information that I did not know. The kids, her kids, are aware that she did not lock that back door. And okay, well, that's important information, I would say.
Open with a flower pot. I'm not able to tell you if that inner door also had a flower pot. It is possible that door just stays open, right? Because it's a heavier door. And in one of the photographs, you can see it behind Savannah as she's playing guitar in her kitchen, and Annie's off to her left at the kitchen window, the kitchen sink. That kitchen sink and window is sort of just overlooking, what would be the flower pots. It's just so frustrating to think that filthy, vile beast deflowered that kitchen. that entrance, that family home. That he did. My sources say that's where he got his entry. But that's not the only thing.
So they're saying that he went in through the back door. I mean, I don't understand the purpose of Porch Guy's video then. And you guys know that you guys have been following me. I have questioned Porch Guy video since it came out because of the whole recovered data situation. Like, to me, there's something really off about that. But that makes it even make less sense because, okay, so they think he went in through the back door. Again, no forced entry. They think he just walked in the door apparently, but they did feel the need to change the locks on that door for whatever reason. So what's the purpose of front porch guy, even being there in the first place? Like, there would have never been that video of him if he had not gone in on the front porch. Now, in the front porch area, we know they have that like gated door at the front. If somebody were casing the place, like people have said, they would have known that that door was on the front door. So why even go to the front door and risk being seen on that camera if you were just going to go through the back door? You know what I mean?
That he did. He also took Nancy's beautiful flower pots and he propped open the back gate. You know, the area that you enter the backyard. If you're looking at her garage, the back gate would be to the right of the garage, in between the casita, the guest house, and Nancy's garage. That's how he got in to the back. And he propped open the back gate with, again, Nancy's. That's how he got in. It would be to the right of the garage.
To the right. Okay, so they're saying he went in through this gate. So came in off over here, went in through this gate, and then went in through the back door. But how would a random person know that she did not lock that back door? Now, if that's, to me, Ashley just said that the kids knew that she rarely ever locked that back door. Rarely ever. And some random person is not going to just assume that she did not lock the doors. You know what I mean? Like, if they knew that their whole plan was to go in through the back, again, I question front porch guy's video in the first place. But if you're going to go through the back and you know that's your point of entry, there has to be a reason that you're going through that back door, because there were cameras all around the property, or all around the house. I mean, there was cameras in the back, there was cameras in the front. Again, none of them had subscription, so they weren't working at the time, but nonetheless, they were there. And a random person would not know, A, that the cameras weren't working, B, that she didn't lock the back door, and that was a safe entry in.
In between the casita, the guest house, and Nancy's garage. That's how he got in to the back. And he propped open the back gate with, again, Nancy's flower pots, using them for his evil.
That's what I mean. What is the point even of this video in the first place? Or like, what is the point of this guy being in the front? It makes no sense. There was no need to even risk going in the front if your whole plan was to go through the back. What's this purpose right here? I mean, somebody explain this to me. What do you
What's
guys
so
think?
fascinating about this is why? Why'd you prop them open? What was the reason that you needed those things to stay open? The back gate and her back kitchen doors, screen door and heavy door. Why did you need them to stay open? Scumbag? What was your plan? What was your sick, twisted fucking plan? Did you know that there was an elderly lady inside all by herself and you knew where her bedroom was? You just have to get through the kitchen, take a right, go through the family room, and then into the back master bedroom, all the way over on the right side of the house if you're looking from the backyard. Did you know? Had you been looking through her windows, making sure that you knew how to get through that place in the dark? Is that what you were doing? Did you think, maybe there is somebody in there, so I better have a fast exit? Because I'll tell you something. Lindsay, my producer, and I, we went back.
I get that too. Right. I understand why, yes, quick getaway, don't have time to mess with the doors, prop it open. But on your way out, I'm just saying, why not close it? Especially since there was no damage done to the door. Why not close the door on your way out? That way, police aren't going to automatically know, yeah, they came in through the back door. Like, that just doesn't make any sense to me.
Back in time.
Oh, well, okay. D. Libby just said, well, I think they came in through the back, but took her out through the front. But then why, even if that's the case, why not close the back doors, right? Like, why keep them propped open if you plan on going out the front door? Yeah, but that wouldn't explain the blood out front. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know either. And then, but Nano said, and I know, take what he says with a grain of salt, but he had said day one there was no, or day two, whenever he did the press conference, might have been day three. There was no tire tracks in the driveway, no tire tracks that they could find. Um, so I just wonder because she couldn't walk. So, I mean, you know what I mean? She could barely walk. She was in a lot of pain. It was very hard for her. Savannah told us that. It just seems like, I don't know, that blood on the front step. I don't know. There's like a missing piece to the puzzle here because why not take her back through out the back door, out the back gate, into a car waiting on the side by the garage, right? Like, and if you were carrying someone out, it would make sense why you couldn't remove the pots and close the door. But I think even police think that they left through the front door and that's how the blood got there. I wonder, no, I wonder about the blood out front, right? And the blood in the entryway, because is there a way, I wonder if there's a way to test, like, how do they know that that blood came from that night, right? And how do they know it didn't come from like earlier in the day, or you know what I mean, or something like that. I don't know. There's so many things to think about in this situation, in this case.
To look at other sick, twisted criminals who break into people's homes at night. And if you look back at the Golden State Killer, James D'Angelo, right? Joseph James D'Angelo, he had a habit of leaving doors and windows open. So he would have a rapid escape route if something went sideways while he was doing his dastardly deeds inside. He had pre-planned it too, because apparently he used to stalk his victims beforehand. Actually, we knew that from the trial. We knew that he would stalk his victims in advance. And there's talk that this guy did too, right? Because even though Sheriff Nanos says, I don't know that we can really trust that the picture of the perpetrator without his backpack and without his gun, we can really trust that that's from a different night. Well, Fox Digital, Michael Ruiz, has two law enforcement sources who said it's from the 11th of January, 2 weeks before Nancy went missing. So this guy was stalking Nancy and stalking the house and finding.
Right, but how did they know that? Like, we've heard them say that, but again, without any because it's recovered data, we were told that because it is recovered data, there are no timestamps, there are no dates, they're not available. So Sheriff Nanos said we cannot, without a doubt, say it's from a different day because it's recovered data and there are no date or timestamps. So my immediate thing was, well, if that's the case, then how do you know that that porch guy video is even from that night, right? If there's no date or timestamps, and how come that was the only recovered data that they could get? Right? How come there was no other recovered data throughout that whole day, like the Uber pickup, like the son-in-law drop off? Like, how come none of that is on video with recorded data from recorded data? How come they couldn't get any videos from the backyard? It doesn't make any sense. They could only get little thumbnail pictures from the backyard, none of which were during the time that this happened. There was before in the day, there was after, but there was none during this time. Now I know a lot of people are talking about jammers, and saying that he obviously had to have used one. But again, jammers have a what's the word I'm looking for? Like a frequency of so many, so far away, right? So you're going to use that jammer before you can even be seen on camera. So that's even before you go into the yard, right? Maybe right outside the yard. Maybe before you're going to do it before you get onto the property or in the property. I've heard people say, well, they didn't turn the jammer on until they were in the house. That's dumb. Why would you do that? You would do it so you're not seen. That's the whole point.
Finding where the back door was unlocked and finding where the spotlights needed to be knocked off, and smashed, right? Because we saw them hanging there. We saw those spotlights dangling by the other back door that goes into the garage or to a storage room. We're not sure what's inside that door, but it's not necessarily the house. Maybe he took those lights out 2 weeks early, knowing I'm coming this way. I'm going to prop that door open. I'm going to come in this way through the back gate. I'm going to prop that gate open. Those spotlights won't be on anymore because I busted them early. And I'm going to go over, and those doors are often left unlocked. According to the children, Nancy would leave her back doors unlocked oftentimes. And then maybe he had done enough stalking to know how to get through that house to his victim. But then what? This is what's so confounding. So then why did you go up the front walk and right up to the front door and disable that camera if you weren't planning to use that door? And eventually you did use that door, because we know that Nancy's blood, according to my source, starts in the front foyer of her house inside.
At the front
those blood droplets.
No sense.
And my law enforcement sources say they then continue over the threshold and out the front door, and then we've.
But there cannot be. I mean, there's no way. I feel like they can tell. Now, I could be wrong about this, but say she had cut herself earlier in the day, right? Just say she had cut herself with whatever earlier in the day, or a nosebleed or something like that. Just saying. Earlier that same day, let's say at noon, right? And the next, so how do they know 100% that blood was from that night and not from earlier in the day? Right? That's what I'm starting to wonder now because of this whole door situation. Like, it doesn't make any sense at all to come in the back and go out the front and leave the back open so you can say, hey, this is the door I came in. Like, I just think we're missing something. We're missing some key parts of this to make it make sense, to make it all fit together.
All seen Brian Enton's video and Michael Ruiz's video of the blood droplets on the outside entrance, those tiles going down the front walk. stopping at the driveway, presumably where he loaded her into a vehicle.
Before I put my cameras on a subscription to record, it would only keep it for 24 hours. Right. Right. We used to have these cameras, what the hell were they called? Snap bulbs. They were snap bulbs. So it was a bulb, but it was also a camera and it had like you could speak through it. They're, they work so well, but we used to have those. And same thing with those. That you could get video from 24 hours before without a subscription. So like you couldn't get them the next day. I mean, unless it was within 24 hours. And if the person knew that about Nancy's, then they may have gone up the front thinking they could just take the camera and they wouldn't have the data the next day. I don't know though, because like ours went to our phone, right? It connected to our phone. So all of our logs were on our cell phone. So even if that camera, was unhooked at some point, we still had the log of the last 24 hours. Um, but we know that's not the case here because that's literally the only video they say that they have. And I thought it was interesting that Savannah said in the interview that the Ring camera was ripped off, but we were told it was the Nest camera that was where they got the video from, and that was taken. Good morning, Arizona sunshine. Welcome. Glad you could make it. D. Libby, glad you're here. Everyone else is here. Glad you guys are here. Thank you so much. Okay, let's move forward. And I said this right in the beginning too. I was like, this makes no sense. What other case have you ever heard of where they do not have organized searches on a daily? Which made me immediately go, well, okay, if I mean, don't get me wrong, they had search and rescue, they searched for a day, yes, but I'm talking about organized searches. They did not do that. They did not want that done. They specifically said, please don't do that. But that's unheard of. Unless right from the get-go, they knew that you could that she would not be found out there in that desert, that she is not going to be found out there. They had to have known that in order to say, in order to not have these searches done, because you would think Savannah and her kids would be demanding that these search parties were put together and took place so their mom was found. But nobody's done that. Nobody did that in the beginning, which always made me wonder, like, what do they know that she's not going to be found out there, that she's not out there?
I wanted to ask you about the searching, because look, a lot of people, in Savannah included, are almost bracing for the news that maybe Mrs. Guthrie did not survive this, right? And yet that would tell you that there may be a body somewhere. So do you have any idea why the sheriff would rebuff the efforts of the Cajun Navy, well-respected group that's been around since Katrina at the least, offering free services to come and help look? There were others that did as well. Any idea why, and whether that was a bad idea or were there redeeming reasons why?
Again, those are one of those questions. This is that Pima County is so vast. Do they need to probably walk through her neighborhood yard to yard? No. And quite honestly, you know, unless they're going to front doors and knocking on people's yards. Hey, can I go in your backyard and look? There's no real, like I said, redeeming quality to that. There were air searches done, granted a little bit later than they should have been done. We won't talk about that. But those resources were up.
Oh yes, that was when they're looking for a pacemaker.
I know when those resources were starting to be discussed, it was a week or so later. At that point, I don't see any reason why not to let them do it, other than making sure that they know where they can and can't go legally. Because again, this is the old West, and there are people who don't want anyone walking through their property, and they might encounter someone with a gun or dogs or things like that. Now, that being said, if these folks are doing it, they're going to do it the right way. They're not going to kick in doors and fences and things like that. They're probably going to knock on doors. But I do know that the investigators did a thorough search of the area those first couple days.
But you know, it's a vast desert, right? That's not yards. It's not private property. No. I would think that they should welcome anybody that might want to bring their resources. You know, some of these guys are former law enforcement. Some of them have ATVs. Many of them bring their boats when they're, you know, coming to terrain that requires boats. Right. That's why they're called the Cajun Navy. It just feels to me like that's still something that could be done. That's still, you know,
especially out in more of the outskirts areas. Absolutely. Let them go do it. There's no harm from them looking, as far as I would be concerned. So to answer the original question, any redeeming qualities to have them not do it? I don't think so. I think, you know, 1,000 sets of eyes looking for her are better than 50 sets of eyes looking for her.
Right. Give me 1 second. Right. I agree. It doesn't make any sense. What do you guys think about the searches? Like, why do you think that they didn't do that like that? Why do you think that wasn't done? Okay. I want people to keep this in mind. I played this yesterday, but
an investigator.
I don't think a lot of people are getting this because they're still talking about how her house was this crime scene and it was like let go, and that's not at all what this situation was like.
An investigator on the case has described Nancy Guthrie's home this way. But for the blood pattern in that front hall foyer, the droplets that go over the threshold of the front door into her entrance at the front door outside and then down the walkway. But for that, and this man appearing on camera and that camera being taken, nothing else inside the home appears that a crime happened. And the exact words that were spoken to me were this: it's as though, but for those things, it's as though Mrs. Guthrie got up in the middle of the night, out of bed, and walked out of her house and disappeared. And that was such a profound statement to me because I also assumed there was a lot of evidence in that home that we just don't know about, right? The duck paddles under the water. That there's so much that they've processed and that they're working on and that we don't know about. And what did it look like in her bedroom? And was there a scene of a struggle? Was there sort of a things out of place, knocked out of place, something, right?
Right. And I feel like that we all expected that. When Sheriff Nanos said from day one, we knew what had happened. We were all expecting her house to be kind of, you know, like look like a struggle took place. Like a lot of people were thinking robbery gone wrong. No, her house was totally unfazed, untouched. You would not have been able to tell that a crime took place there.
Savannah has mentioned back doors propped open, plural. I have a theory about that. It might actually be 2 doors in the same entrance, right? You got the screen door and the heavy door, that kind of thing, or the security door and the heavy door. It might be that it's one entrance with doors, plural, propped open, I don't know if it's multiple entrances because she has 1, 2, 3 back doors.
And this video was done of Ashley's yesterday. So the one I just showed you about the doors, that was done this morning, just so you know.
I know in my podcast before I saw 2 back doors, and then we've since discovered a third one that's very, very hard to see under the awning, but 3 back doors. So anyway, we're unclear as to what Savannah means by back doors, plural, propped open, whether it's multiple entrances or just one entrance with 2 doors, in it. But these clues, other than doors propped open, man on the camera smashed, and this and blood pattern, nothing else. And that has me really flummoxed. I had this vision that there's just a huge scene that was processed inside, some evidence there of what happened. And apparently that's not the case. But I will say this. Early in the investigation, like day of, they're showing up. And that may be how the scene presented, right? It may have been early on how the scene presented, even to the FBI and the homicide cops and everybody from Pima County. That's the first thing they see. Like, what the hell happened here? Because it doesn't look like anything. Weeks in, as the FBI gets involved.
That's crazy. That is crazy.
And that was processed inside, some evidence there of what happened. And apparently that's not the case. But I will say this. Early in the investigation, like day of, they're showing up. And that may be how the scene presented, right? It may have been early on how the scene presented, even to the FBI and the homicide cops and everybody from Pima County. That's the first thing they see. Like, what the hell happened here? Because it doesn't look like anything. Weeks in, as the FBI gets involved and crime scene investigators, CSI, show up and do, a lot more processing, microscopic kinds of processing, maybe things look different. But the way that this has been described to me is that it's as vexing to them as it is to the rest of us. Like, if they didn't have that blood, and if they didn't have that man on camera, cameras missing, they might have actually thought she just walked out. They might have actually thought that, because that's what it looked like in the home. So it's just, it's frustrating, and it's upsetting, because I just wish they had so much more to go on, just wish they had so much more to go on. You hear Savannah and the heartbreak in her voice.
But yeah, so it was totally fine. Like, you could not even tell that anything happened there. That's wild. I gotta close this out. Just like like Nancy maybe knowing her attacker, knowing who took her. Okay, I want to look at this.
One day, and I was recording.
Okay, so this was yesterday. And there was a bunch of, there were 2 people taking boxes upon boxes out of Nancy's home and putting them in the back of a car. Now, the woman looks like Annie. I can't tell who the man is, though.
Day, and I was recording. I was like, "What the? What are you gonna do? Tell your kids not to cuss? Check Zendaya. She's a fucking ruthless."
But those are files.
Oh, guys.
Those
One
are
day, and I was
files
recording, I was
of
like, "What
paperwork
the?
and files coming out of
What are
that
you gonna do?
house.
Tell your kids not to cuss?"
Now, keep in mind that Nancy has not been found. It's not like she's, it's not like they have found her body and they know she's gone. But yet, here you have Annie taking boxes and boxes of files and paperwork out of Nancy's home. For what reason? For what reason?
Check Zendaya. She's a fucking ruthless. Oh, guys. Movement. Look at that. In the trunk. Annie's trunk, guys. Okay. I'm looking away. Be cool. Be cool. Be cool. They're emptying stuff out of the house.
Zoom in, man.
In the trunk. Okay, guys. Okay, guys. Be cool. I'm gonna look over to the right. Just pretend I'm not looking. You guys watch and tell me what happens. Okay. Oh, look at the street. Look at the mailboxes down there. So pretty. Anything. I see them grab. Her trunk is open. No, it looked like tomato, but it's not. You saw that gate? Oh, wait, look. Oh, he's putting stuff in the trunk. Oh, mira. Look. He put a box in the trunk. Mira. And he's closing it now. He's closing it. Guys, we're going to have to look to see what that package was. We have to zoom in after. We're going to have to do a little.
What do you guys think about that? For what reason would she be removing all of that from her home? Let me know in the comments what you guys are thinking, or in the chat. Give me 1 second. Okay. So for what reason? What are you guys thinking? Because it doesn't sit real with me. Just my opinion. All right. Okay. Wait, is this the one? No, this ain't the one. I'm sorry. 1 second.
Good morning, everybody. It is turning out to be a beautiful day. I hope you guys have a great day. But as I start thinking about this Nancy Guthrie case and Sheriff Nanos, a couple of things concern me because based on some experience where you have the police executive, in this case, Sheriff Nanos, he's under attack from all different angles. He's under attack from the media. He's under attack from the recall. And he's also now under attack because they're having this internal investigation about him and his resume and all the other stuff that goes on. And as the pressure builds, I kind of really worry about it. Now, some say it's a good thing because he'll start, snapping up into shape and getting this case rolling. Well, that's not what I've experienced when these things happen. When you have an executive that is under a lot of tremendous pressure, they end up micromanaging this thing more. And they end up grinding the detectives to a halt. And this is something you have to be very concerned about. When I first became a sergeant in the detective squad, the lieutenant took me aside the first day and said, listen, the first thing that you really need to learn, and basically the only thing you need to learn, is let the detectives do their jobs. And that's exactly what I did. But the issue that comes down to is not everybody is going to be able to do that. And I'm kind of worried about that in this situation because I don't think this case could get any worse than it already has. But folks, it always can. Well, let's hope I'm wrong. And I hope you guys have a rest of your day. And I'm going to be on top of this. Take care.
Well, I mean, not for nothing, but I had said previously about Nanos and that being an elected position. And yeah, I mean, this whole thing was botched from day one, in my opinion. I don't know if they're just not used to like crimes of this caliber or like what the deal is, but I think a lot was done wrong. At the same time, though, I also think, and my mind always goes back to Savannah contacting the senator. And yes, I understand that they're friends of the family. But you got to think that if there were somebody that were going to be able to put pressure on the sheriff to make sure he was doing what he needed to do, whatever that be, that a senator, the senior senator in Arizona would be the person for that job. You know what I mean? Would be the person to put that pressure on. So what went wrong in this case? Unpopular vote, but there would probably be more to go on if our incompetent sheriff wouldn't have cleared a crime scene day 2 and cleared the family, because in my opinion and theory only, until there's arrest, sorry, everyone suspect. I am with you there 100%. I totally agree with that. I think, I mean, he said in the press conference on day 3 that the home had already been turned back over to the family. So, and my immediate thought was, wow, already on day 3, you've already turned the house over to the family? That's crazy. That's craziness. Because how many days after that did they have investigators going to the house? Did they have FBI going to the house? I mean, they shouldn't have turned it over that quick, and it should have probably been kept for a while longer, just to, make sure. I mean, this is a high profile case. Okay. Friendly reminder to please hit that like button if you have not already done so. It's free. It really helps out the channel, and please consider subbing to the channel. We would really appreciate it. And you can also consider becoming a member of our family by joining and getting a membership. Okay. Definitely botched. I want to go back to this day so people can remember. This was, I believe, February 3rd. I believe so.
Tragically lost 2 members last night in a helicopter crash up in northern Arizona. So if you would keep them in your prayers, Colonel Glover and his team, I'm sure, would greatly appreciate it. Along the same lines, I think you all saw last night, I'm trying to speak up, not yell. Apparently I talk soft. We saw last night the family, they just hurt, understandably so. And so I really want you to know this entire team here, those behind me, and our community are hurting with you. We really just want Mom back, okay? Right now, we believe Nancy is still out there. We want her home. Our department, the Sheriff's Department, along with all of our partners at the FBI, have been working around the clock.
Okay, well, this isn't, I can just say this is not the one from February 3rd, because this is a different one.
And we just want her home and find a way to get to the bottom of all of this, just as you do. But I have other partners out there who have stepped up, and you've probably noticed them in the last few days, if not the last few hours, and you're going to see more of that. I made a decision to contact our PCRIT team, and those of you not local, that's our Pima Regional Critical Incident Team. It's made up of law enforcement officers from this entire valley. Pasquayaki Police Department, Tucson Police Department, Marana Police Department, Oro Valley Police Department, Pima College Police Department, Tucson International Police Department, Sarita Police Department. There's so many of them. And they are going to help us tremendously. And that's really done because we have so much in front of us still. And we're hoping that, I know the FBI has committed a very large number of men and women to partner with us, work side by side with us. We go do an interview, they're going to be there with us. We're going to go look at some evidence or process evidence, they're going to be right there with us. We're sharing every piece of information, all the data we can to get this thing solved. And it's important that my partners in law enforcement know and understand their roles, because it is very large, complex investigation with a lot of moving parts. And we're at that phase now where sometimes we're waiting, right? We're waiting for analysis. We're waiting for lab reports. But even then, when they come back quickly, for example, some DNA, we rushed what we thought was the best target for DNA. We did a rush through and got some of that back. The results were minimal. I think you all know the blood on the porch. That was one we did. It came back to Nancy. That's
exactly. That's why they're not admissible in court.
That's what we know. But there's still more items that have been submitted. We just haven't got them back yet. But in the meantime, we're not just sitting on our...
That's what I mean, though. We know it's Nancy's blood, but how can you specifically say it was from that night and not from earlier that day? I'm just saying. Because, you know what I mean? Like, there's no clarity in this, in so many things in this case. Oh, it is February 3rd. There's no clarity in so many things that are in this case. So I just think, maybe if there were like, okay, yes, we know 100% this is from, this blood is this, from between here and here, just like they do bodies, and an Emmy goes and they're like, well, but until I get in there, I can guess that time of death was somewhere between 9 p.m. and 1 a.m. That's not done with this. So I'm just saying, there's no proof of when the videos came from. There's no proof of the other pictures. There's no proof of when these things happened.
Just waiting. We do have a number of leads coming in, and that's why we brought in the FBI for one, but PCRIT as well, to be able to get out there and handle these leads as they come in as quickly and as expeditiously as we can. And every single lead is looked at, every one of them. And so we're gearing up. You probably have some questions about what you've seen in the last couple of days. I'll gladly answer those at that time. But it really is about getting our partners out there. To be fair, when we went to that scene the first night, Saturday night, it was just us. Since then, the FBI and others have asked, can we go and see it as well? And that's what you've been seeing. But it is a very important case to not just me and my team, but this entire community, all of our law enforcement partners. Suspects. I know there's been a lot out there about suspects, and I want to be very clear. At this time, we have not identified a suspect or a person of interest in this case. We are working our best to do that. But to be clear, we have nobody of interest or any suspects that you would consider a prime suspect. We're just not there. We're not there yet. The timeline, I think we've got it on the board, do we not? This is a timeline that we have been able to develop with some of the things that we've had processed, various pieces of electronics that we've gathered. And you look at some of this, and I know you're going to say, well, why did it take you so long to get this to us, Sheriff? Well, because one thing, it's got to go out and be processed at different lab sites. And sometimes that stuff comes back to us. And like you, we have questions. And we say, wait a minute, what is this about? What about this? Could it be that? And so it's sent back or it's sent somewhere else. So, and that's happening with all of the things we see, that process, that review, and that questioning up. All right, what is it we're looking at? So I'll go over it with you. You can see it on the board there, but at about 5:32 p.m., these are approximate times. 5:32 p.m., Nancy travels to her local family's home for dinner and playing games with the family. Just visiting. At 9:48 p.m., which is very consistent to what we were told by the family, that Nancy was dropped off at home. And we know that because we have a garage door open at approximately, I can't stress that enough, at approximately.
That's stupid. We know she was dropped off because the garage door opened. Anybody, you know what I mean? And I'm just throwing this out there, not stating anybody is guilty, but not for nothing, but Tommaso or Annie or, could have opened and closed that garage door. So I wouldn't say, well, it's proof that she came home because the garage door opened and closed. That's retarded. That doesn't even, you know what I mean? Like, where's the video of that? Where's the recovered data of that? Where's any type of proof other than Tommaso say so that he dropped her off?
Only 9:48 p.m. At 9:50 p.m., that garage door closes. Which is that time we assume that Nancy's
I
home
know.
and
I
probably
talked
going to
about
bed.
it. Yes.
Sunday. The timeline, I think we've got it on the board, do we not? This is a timeline that we have been able to develop with websites, and sometimes that stuff comes back to us, and like you, we have questions, and we say, wait a minute, what is this about? What about this? Could it be that? And so it's sent back, or it's sent somewhere else. So, and that's happening with all of the things we see, that process, that review, and that questioning of, all right, what is it we're looking at? So I'll go over it with you. You can see it on the board there, but at about 5:32 p.m., these are approximate times. 5:32 p.m., Nancy travels to her local family's home for dinner and playing games with the family, just visiting. At 9:48 p.m., which is very consistent to what we were told by the family, that Nancy was dropped off at home, and we know that because we have a garage door open at approximately, I can't stress that enough, at approximately 9:48 p.m. At 9:50 p.m., that garage door closes, which is that time we assume that Nancy's home and probably going to bed. Sunday morning, early morning at 1:47 a.m., the doorbell camera disconnects. At 2:12 a.m., software detects a person on a camera, but there's no video available. They had no subscription, and therefore it would rewrite itself. It just kind of loops right and covers up. That's what our analysis teams have told us. We're not done with that. We'll do all we can, but that's what it says. So it detects a person on camera. Could that be an animal? I imagine that's possible. We don't know that. We just have no video. But we're not giving up on that. 2:28. Nancy's pacemaker app shows that it was a disconnect from the phone. And at 11:56 a.m., the family checks on Nancy and discovers her missing. And at 12:03 p.m., 911 is called in to the Pima County Sheriff's Department. I believe it's about approximately 10 minutes later, 12 minutes later, our patrol teams arrive. They see the scene, and we start our response with our search and rescue teams and our detectives from homicide and various units. In fact, every unit here, I think somebody questioned, how come there's an ICAC member out here or this member? Everybody in our criminal investigations team is a part of this team and part of this investigative effort. I think with that, let me make sure.
Good, I'm watching this video.
I want to clarify some things that I may have already done, but yeah, I've gone over with the blood at the front door, the doorbell camera. It was removed, we know that, but we're not confirming that any cameras were smashed or destroyed around the house. I don't know where that came from, but that's something we're not confirming. The car. The car that was at the home, it's just standard investigative practices. It's part of the search warrant scene, court orders. We pull it out of there and do our scene processing with the vehicle. Uber. We did speak to a driver because Nancy, we learned, had been taken the Uber to the family residence, the daughter, for dinner. And we located that driver and spoke with them and got that information. You guys got this, I think, conducting follow-up. I think you said somebody had mentioned that they saw a team out there again last night or yesterday, and that's just, again, what I was talking about before. Our partners wanted a chance to see it and examine things themselves, and more importantly, it's just we're constantly following up on things and go, hey, what about this? So we want to go back and check on some things. Oh, here's the other thing. Someone had mentioned there was forced entry. I have no clue where that comes from. We have been very consistent. We are not discussing that at all. Whether it's forced entry or not forced entry, that is something we're just not discussing. So I don't know where anybody got that information. I think I am about done with my piece of this. I'm going to bring up here upsides. And sometimes that stuff comes back to us. And like you, we have questions.
Give me a second.
To not just me and my team, but this entire community, all of our law enforcement partners. Suspects. I know there's been a lot out there about suspects, and I want to be very clear. At this time, we have not identified a suspect or a person of interest in this case. We are working our best to do that. But to be clear, we have nobody of interest or any suspects that you would consider a prime suspect. We're just not there. We're not there yet. The timeline, I think we've got it on the board, do we not? This is a timeline that we have been able to develop with some of the things that we've had processed, various pieces of electronics that we've gathered. And you look at some of this, and I know you're going to say, well, why did it take you so long to get this to us? Best target for DNA, we did a rush through and got some of that back. The results were minimal. I think you all know the blood on the porch. That was one we did. It came back to Nancy. That's what we know. But there's still more items that have been submitted. We just haven't got them back yet. But in the meantime, we're not just sitting on our haunches waiting. We do have a number of leads coming in, and that's why we brought in the FBI for one, but PCRIT as well, to be able to get out there and handle these leads as they come in as quickly and as expeditiously as we can. And every single lead is looked at, every one of them. And so we're gearing up. You probably have some questions about what you've seen in the last couple of days. I'll gladly answer those at that time. But it really is about getting our partners out there. To be fair, when we went to that scene the first night, Saturday night, it was just us. Since then, the FBI and others have asked, can we go and see it as well? And that's what you've been seeing. It is.
Okay.
And so we're gearing up. You probably have some questions about what you've seen in the last couple of days. I'll gladly answer those at that time. But it really is about getting our partners out there. To be fair, when we went to that scene the first night, Saturday night, it was just us.
Okay. Yes, I have mentioned this before. Now, he says that when they first went to the scene that night, it was Saturday night. Saturday night was the night of the 31st. She was not reported missing until Sunday. And cops supposedly didn't show up to the house until 12:15 p.m. after 911 was called at noon. So, and I've said this before. I've actually did a video on this. But people were like, oh, he just misspoke. You know, he didn't. But here's my thing. How do you mix up nighttime and daytime? Not only did he say he was there Saturday, he said he was there Saturday night. Right? Everybody heard that. When I called this out, people were like, oh my gosh, it was an accident. He's misspoke, yada, yada, yada. Is that really what happened? Or did you know what I'm saying? Because to me, that's a how do you mistake that? Especially since this case was so big for him. You know, you would remember that it came in on a Sunday at noon. It was the middle of the day. So to stand there and say, well, the first time we were there and it was just us, the sheriff's office, it was just us, was Saturday night. No, here's the transcript about getting our partners out there. To be fair, when we went to that scene the first night, Saturday night, it was just us. Yeah. Again, it wasn't night, wasn't Saturday. I feel like you could remember that a few days later.
Since then, the FBI and others have asked, can we go and see it as well? And that's what you've been seeing. But it is a very important case to not just me and my team, but this entire community, all of our law enforcement partners.
Where I was.
Suspect. We are not discussing that at all. Whether it's forced entry or not forced entry, that is something we're just not discussing. So I don't know where anybody got that information. I think I am about done with my piece of this. I'm going to bring up here Heath Yankee, and I think you know, John Edwards is the assistant agent in charge with the FBI here at the Tucson office. Heath Yankee is the
Guys, I want to pause for just 1 second. A friendly reminder to please hit that like button. I have a thing posted at the top when you come into this video. If you can help, our family is going through a lot right now. If you guys can help and you want to help, can you please consider doing so? The links are in chat and they're also down in the description of this live. Anything you guys could do would be greatly appreciated. Thank you. It really would make a huge, huge difference. So thank you in advance to anybody that wants to help. We appreciate it more than you know.
special agent in charge for the state of Arizona out of Phoenix, and he will come up and speak.
Thank you, Sheriff. Hello, I'm Heath Yankee, the special agent in charge of the FBI's Phoenix Division. First, I want to let the Guthrie family know that our hearts are heavy for them. After seeing your message last night, it is clear that you and your family are in pain. Please know that we are doing everything to bring your mother home. The FBI is now working this case jointly with the Pima County Sheriff's Department. And we're going to start today by announcing a $50,000 reward for information leading to the recovery of Nancy Guthrie and or the arrest and conviction of anyone involved in her disappearance. And this will be the missing persons with your reward that will be going out. The FBI has agents, analysts, and professional staff employees working day and night with our partners at the Sheriff's Department. We have deployed additional intelligence and agents from our Phoenix office. We have brought in our critical incident response group from Quantico, Virginia. Members from our cellular analysis survey team are here, and they continue to collect and process digital information. We are actively reviewing and analyzing information from all digital sources, which includes banks, social media companies, phone companies, and any other organizations where a digital footprint could have been captured. All this information provides data points and helps put the picture together. And we will be in the community continuing to conduct a thorough investigation with our partners. You heard about us out there last night. We will be back out there today. I would ask the media, give our investigators the space to do their jobs while they're out there. Next, regarding the ransom letter. We are aware of a ransom letter that was sent to the local media and then to national outlets. As with every lead, we are taking it seriously. We are in communication with the family. And while we advise and recommend from a law enforcement perspective, any action taken on any ransom is ultimately decided by the family. Thank you to those in the community that have called in tips. For anyone out there that may have information, no matter how small you think it may be, please report it. You can do so by calling 1-800-CALL-FBI or online at tips.fbi.gov. My next message is to those imposters who are trying to take advantage and profit from this situation. We will investigate and ensure you are held accountable for your actions. We have made one arrest related to an imposter ransom demand, and a complaint will be presented to a magistrate judge later today. You will get more on that from the FBI and our U.S. Attorney's Office here in Arizona when it becomes available. To anyone that may be involved, do the right thing. This is an 84-year-old grandma. This is an 84-year-old grandma that needs vital medication for her well-being. You still have the time to do the right thing before this becomes a much worse scenario for you. Please return Nancy home. Thank you.
Right, so you want to call me? Okay, so the first person we're going to start with the list is going to be NBC National, Liz, right here.
Can you walk us through that timeline from when you believe, if you look at this here, from 147 to 228, what you think happened there, and what particular software would have detected somebody on camera?
Yeah, I don't. I know.
This is another issue I have right here. Okay. So the doorbell camera disconnects at 1:47 a.m. Now somebody, if I'm like, please somebody explain this to me. Okay. Because I don't get it. So at 1:47 a.m., the doorbell camera disconnects. At 2:12 a.m., software detects a person on camera. No video available because there's no subscription. Okay. We got that. No video available because there's no subscription. So how do they know that there was a person detected on camera, but yet they weren't able to get the video or even a picture of that person? But yet we're supposed to believe this whole front porch video came from that day. Like, that just makes zero sense to me. I cannot be the only one. That does not make any sense.
We know the software that was there, but I'm not, I'm sorry, I'm just not in the weeds. I know that think of your doorbell cameras. Somebody walks up, my wife's, if I walk up, she gets an alert, and it's usually something like that. A person's detected.
So to understand the involved, one, does that mean that it was about a 45-minute span that this suspect or suspects would have been on the property? And then also, does it?
Like, I don't know why people aren't saying that. Like, okay, how do you know? And I've called this out before. Like, how do you know that a person was detected on camera at 2:12 a.m., but there's no video available because there's no subscription? So how do you know that? And where's the picture of that person at 2:12 a.m.? Like, it just does not add up. But yet you have this whole video of porch guy. It just doesn't add up, guys.
Essentially mean that you cooperated with the tech companies and you can officially say that no surveillance video is available from the home?
We know that the tech company that we sent that camera off to, yes, they've said they've run out of ways to recover any video.
This is exactly what I'm saying. This is exactly why I feel the way I do, and I question the way that I do. Because he said this on day 3. Okay, day 3. They've done everything. They cannot get any freaking video off of this camera. And then day 10, all of a sudden, magically, all of a sudden, on day 10, we get porch guy video. Where did it come from? Because he just says here, they've tried everything they can. They cannot get any videos or photos from that camera. It's not happening. But then bam, day 10, there's this random guy on the front porch with no date or timestamp. There's no proof that happened, that you cannot prove that video came from that night. I mean, and again, I'm just throwing this out there. I'm not stating anything by this, but it's just calling it what it is that video could have been taken at any point in time if it's legit. Because it doesn't make any sense. At 2:12, we know you couldn't detect anything. We know on day 3, you said they've tried everything. They cannot get videos from it because there was no active subscription. Where's the Uber pickup? Where's the Tommaso drop off? Where's any other video from that day?
Next person's going to be ABC News, Aaron Katersky.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Was what 45 minutes?
Can we say it's about a 45-minute span that somebody would have been on the property then, from 147 to 228?
Yeah, I think those times speak for themselves, and it is about, like I say, those are approximates. So yes. I'm sorry. Who was next?
Aaron Katersky, ABC News.
Hi, Sheriff. Thanks very much.
Now, you got this guy who was just rolling his eyes over here. Okay, I don't know if you caught that, but he's FBI. If you could see on day 3 that the sheriff was not handling this investigation correctly, or you did not agree with something that he said during this press conference, why would you not speak up? Why would you not say anything? You have a chance to walk up to the podium.
There information that you are purposely withholding because of the active investigation that might be leading you in a particular direction?
You know, this is no different than any criminal investigation that we conduct here. Law enforcement has conducted investigations since 1865 here in Pima County. We're always mindful of what it is that's in front of us and what we should release and can release. There's legal guidelines that guide us, but there's also strategy too. So, I'll leave that for you to determine.
Now that you are having such an injection of manpower from the FEMA critical incident team and the FBI, would you slow to bring that in at the outset? Should all of these resources been brought to bear sooner?
I guess it's Monday morning quarterbacking. I do it all the time, so you have the opportunity to do it for me. I'll take that hit.
CBS News, Jonathan Gigliotti.
Sheriff over here, has there been any proof of life, and has there been any sign of life?
I'm going to anything to deal with the ransom, the notes, and that I would defer to the FBI. But no, to my knowledge, we're still looking for Nancy.
And for my follow-up question, if I can speak with the special agent, what was it about the apparent ransom note that now 3 days on, he first haven't been able to validate, and second, it warranted informing the Guthrie's of his existence?
So the ransom note that was sent out there, obviously every lead in this case, we are taking extremely serious.
But not everyone is presented to the family. Why?
Not for nothing. Not only was the ransom note sent to TMZ, but also Tommaso's cell phone is the one that got the text message about Bitcoin. That's not for nothing, okay? That is not for nothing. It doesn't even make sense. Why not send it to Savannah? Why send it to Tommaso?
This one.
Because this was the ransom that came in and it had facts associated with a deadline, with a monetary value they were asking for. So at that point,
what were some of those facts, if you can, because there's been a lot of speculation, as you know, if you can set the record straight.
I'm just saying, the last person to see her alive, the last person, he dropped her off at home. So he was knowingly the last person to see her alive. And he gets to his cell phone, sent a message about Bitcoin. I mean, come on. And her phone was left at home.
Itself, one talked about an Apple Watch and one talked about a floodlight. We're not going to go into specifics. It's very important that we keep this investigation moving forward, and we don't want to put more facts out there that others then can use to try to profit from this.
CNN, next, Ed Lavandera.
Hey, Agent, I want to follow up with you real quick on that. There have been, as far as we know, I think 3 ransom notes so far, 1 arrest. Are they all different? Or do you think there are different authors behind all of them, or?
So the one that went to the media is the one we are currently investigating and working on. The imposter that I talked about, where an arrest was made early this morning, that there will be more information. We believe there's no evidence to connect this to Nancy's case. It was someone that was trying to profit from it, a total imposter.
And Sheriff, you started off the press conference by saying you believe that Nancy is still out there. Do you have reason to believe that she's still out there alive, or are you fearful of the worst case scenario here, that she won't be found alive?
Well, I'm certainly fearful of that. I think we all are. But it is. We operate from a position that until we know she's out there, she's alive, and we're going to continue thinking that way until we find her.
Fox Digital, Mike Reese.
Yeah, sir. Mike over at Fox Digital. Sheriff, you said you've identified no suspects. Have you ruled out anyone she was with on Saturday night?
You know, we've talked to so many. I'm sure that my investigators have feelings about this one's clear or this one isn't. But no, I wouldn't say anybody's ruled out yet, because what if I rule you out and then later I learn something else? No.
So my follow-up, you mentioned that you don't know where the recording of a forced entry came from. Do we know how whoever did this got into her house?
That I would not discuss with you anyway.
Fox News, Paul Morrow.
Question for Agent Edwards, if I may. Agent Edwards, will the Bureau be submitting the DNA for investigative genealogical investigation relative to maybe getting a relative, somebody if you want?
I would say the DNA aspect of this case is being handled by the Pima County Sheriff's Department right now. However, should we get to that point, yes, that would be an option for the FBI to assist.
And a quick follow-up, does the ransom note that you're working establish any communication protocols in it?
I think it's important that if someone has Nancy and is demanding a ransom, that there is communication with the family. We talked about has been no proof of life, and there was no other demands within that letter. So they're still waiting for communication.
ABC affiliate, Ashley Holden.
Right there, Ashley Holden. When you say the doorbell camera was disconnected, do you believe that camera was taken?
We do not have it in our possession. We've not located.
Okay. And then a follow-up. I know that we've been hearing a lot about ransom notes. We were also hearing in that video that was put out by the Guthrie siblings, and I don't know if this is a question for the FBI or yourself, but the challenges of seeing an image and knowing that it's real.
Could one of you address that? Has the family received correspondence, any images, videos?
So we're not going to go into facts regarding this part of the investigation. I think part of that message was with AI these days, you can make videos that appear to be very real. So we can't just take a video and trust that that is a proof of life these days because of the advancements in AI and trying to actually get a proof of life that we can verify. But we're not going to go into anything the family may or may not have received.
KOLB, Catherine Patterson.
So in regards to a timeline on that ransom note, is that being an impact in your investigation? Are we nearing that timeline?
I'm sorry, one more time.
So in regards to the timeline in the ransom note, are we nearing that timeline? And is that playing a part in the investigation?
We're not going to go again into specifics of that part of the investigation with the ransom note other than what we've put out there. We've been transparent. We're talking about we are working that ransom demand, but we don't want to go anything further than that could impact any opportunities. So thank you.
Is there any additional physical evidence at the crime scene other than the technology that you guys are using for this timeline? Is there anything else that's helping you guys other than really the technology?
Well, I think I said on day one is that it's technology that's going to really help us solve this case. But no, I mean, we did do a process of that scene for biological evidence. So we're still hopeful that maybe something will show up there as well.
Arizona Republic, Richard Rella.
Brady Yankee. We saw on the scene, I believe it was you, taking a tripod into the home of the sister. How involved was the FBI, if at all, in creating the video? Any advice for the family?
I would say we use our expertise and provide consultation and advice anytime a family would ask for our advice on a kidnapping. It's ultimately the family's decision of what they put out and any messages they put out. But we were, obviously, you're all documenting every move we make. We were there last night in talking with the family. But every decision is theirs.
Right, that was a tripod and a ring light. And sure, now you said the blood was found on the porch and on the front stoop. Just wanted to verify that.
I say porch, front stoop. It's all in that same general area by the front door.
Front of the house.
Front door, yes.
What, given her medical condition and the fact that it was her blood, as you say, what would her medical condition do with her recovery if she indeed bled out or was bleeding when she left the house?
Well, again, I've got to be careful for HIPAA, but I would say this. We know she is in need of medication, daily medication. And we also know that this is day 4 or 5 and still we don't know that she's getting her medication. That could in itself prove fatal.
And for the,
that'll be a question. For KGUN News, we have Craig Smith and Athena.
I'll do that for you.
Craig?
KGUN, Athena, Craig West.
Okay.
Have you been in communication with anyone who you believe to be the kidnapper?
It goes back to what we talked about.
What was day 4 or 5, not 3?
Nobody's eliminated, but we just really don't have enough to say, this is our suspect, this is our guy, we know, or our gal. We just don't know that. And it's really kind of reckless to report that someone is a suspect when they could very well be a victim. It just, I bring to you, to the media, I plead with you to be careful of what it is we put out there, because we don't have anybody here listed as a suspect, and you could actually be doing some damage to the case, but you can do some damage to that individual too. This is social media is kind of an ugly world sometimes.
And how far out have you expanded your search? You said.
I would tell you this. Look, nothing's off the table. If we get a lead that there's somebody, hey, we've got this over here, or we're going, and that.
Yeah, but see, that's the thing. In any other case, like any other case, they'll set up, they'll have a perimeter. They'll go, okay, especially by day, you're talking day 4, let's say. They're like, okay, well, we've already gone out, in a 30-mile, okay, maybe not 30 miles. Let's say 20 miles, 20-mile radius. We've expanded the search in a 20-mile radius of her home. They didn't do that. He was just asked about that, and they did not do that. So they had reason to believe at this point that she's not going to be found out there. Now, when the FBI investigator who was handling, the special agent who was handling the ransom notes, he said, when he was asked, have you received proof of life? He said, well, with AI, we have to be careful because you don't know if it's real. Like, we have to have something that we know is concrete that proves that she's alive. So I wonder if they did get a video of Nancy, but they couldn't, he was like, well, why else would he have said that? If they asked if they received proof of life and his first thing was about AI videos, it makes you wonder if they did in fact get one and they didn't know if it was legit or not. Because we know the ransom wasn't paid. But Savannah believes that 2 of the ransom notes were real. So it does make you wonder.
Will expand and expand and expand. I think the FBI, with their billboards, they're now planning to put those up at every state around here, at all of our neighboring states. So, we use you, the national media, the FBI with their national outreach to affect that for us. But as far as the actual investigation, naturally the scene is the primary, and we just keep spreading it out as we get more and more leads.
Court TV, Cody Thomas.
Dear Sheriff. Actually, my question is for Agent Yonke. We saw Savannah Guthrie and her sibling family put out that video last night on Instagram addressing, the tragedy that is hit, but also addressing the ransom letter saying they're ready to talk. My question is, did the FBI or any other agency help them craft that message to put out on social media?
Like I said to the previous question, we have an expertise when it comes to kidnappings. And when families want advice, consultation, expertise, we will provide that. But the ultimate decisions on what they say and how they put that out rests with the family itself.
And as far as suspects, I know we haven't identified one, but what type of suspect or suspects do we think we're dealing with here?
At this time, like the sheriff has said, there is no primary suspect identified, so it could run the gamut. So,
KPNX, Troy Hayden.
Are you actively investigating the son-in-law in this case? There were reports earlier this week, and you refuted that. You said you haven't eliminated everybody. Have you eliminated him or come close to it, or are you actively looking at him?
We're actively looking at everybody we come across in this case. Everybody. We would be irresponsible if we didn't talk to everybody, the Uber driver, the gardener, the pool person, whoever, everybody. It's so cliche, but everybody's still a suspect in our eyes. That's just how we look at things and think as cops. Does that mean we have a prime suspect? No, and the family's been very cooperative. They've done it.
Oh, I hadn't heard all that, Arizona. I hadn't heard all that. I had just heard right from the beginning. Well, no, that's not true. Because at first I did hear family dropped her off. I did hear that. And then I was like, family who? And then we heard Tommaso dropped her off. So yeah, you're right. I did hear those 2 separate things.
Everything we've asked of them. And we want that relationship to continue. And sometimes everybody, it's so cliche, but everybody's still a suspect in our eyes. That's just how we look at things and think as cops. Does that mean we have a prime suspect? No, and the family's been very cooperative. They've done everything we've asked of them, and we want that relationship to continue. And sometimes people can be mean out there, and that can really harm us and harm our efforts.
Did you find blood anywhere else in the home besides the porch?
The only DNA evidence we've got back is on the porch. We prioritize things and we rush things, and those items we put out to a lab to rush it. And even then, it's 2, 3, 4 days. The other items could take 10 days, 20 days. But
let's take, if you guys remember, let's take her blue shirt. So there was a blue shirt sitting out by her steps, by her front steps for days. And multiple people got it on their cameras, on their drones. Multiple people got photos of it. Now, that was Nancy's shirt. Now, we were told that the police, that shirt was used as a scent tracker for the dogs. But I did think it was odd and weird how once they got done with it, it was just thrown there and left there. And nobody ever picked it up. Nobody ever took care of it. It was kind of just tossed to the side and left laying on the ground. I thought that was super weird. Because, again, that's not normally what you see, and that's not normally how that goes. So, I'm not going to lie. And I think, I know I'm being completely honest, and I think if other people would just stop trying to be so, like, oh, I don't want to offend anybody, I think more people would say, yeah, this case raises a lot of questions. There's a lot about this case that does not make a lick of sense. but I think so many people are afraid of like offending anybody or, you know, like pointing the finger at somebody. You're not, listen, asking questions and calling out things that don't make sense is not pointing the finger at somebody. It's just like, hey, this is not adding up. Something's not right. Let's talk about it. You know what I mean?
I saw the importance of that, but it came back to Nancy.
So it was only there, it wasn't anywhere else in the house?
I don't know that. We processed the house with biological evidence, and we've not gotten any feedback.
Newsmax, Sarah Williamson.
Hi there. My question is just piggybacking off our colleagues here about how far this search has gone. When it comes to doorbell cameras, you say technology plays a critical role in this.
Those items we put out to a lab to brush it. And even then, it's 2, 3, 4 days. The other items could take 10 days, 20 days. But we saw the importance of that blood. It came back to Nancy.
So it was only there, it wasn't anywhere else in the house?
I don't know that.
I mean, and let's not forget, let's not, again, take into effect that they didn't even take in this mat where this guy would have been standing. Porch guy.
We processed the house for biological evidence, and we've not gotten any feedback.
See, it doesn't make any sense. So here's where the Ring camera would have been. Here's the camera that we saw the guy, porch guy, removing. But they couldn't sense the other, they knew a person was caught on camera, but they couldn't take a picture of it. They couldn't get a video or a picture of that.
Newsmax, Sarah Williamson.
Hi there. My question is just piggybacking off our colleagues here about how far this search has gone. When it comes to doorbell cameras, you say technology plays a critical role in this. Have you been actively door knocking the neighbours and businesses and collecting those doorbell cameras? And is there anything that has come up there, and how far is that?
I can't tell you whether things have come up or not, but we have door to door. I think we're still doing door to door, not just in that neighborhood, but other neighborhoods. Just as leads come in and take us somewhere, we're going to do those things.
Okay, and just to follow up as well in regards to the video that was released by Nancy Guthrie's children last night, just to clarify, that was not coordinated with any law enforcement beforehand, and that you hadn't seen that video before it was released.
The FBI is handling all things with the ransom.
I think the answer was yes, we were there. The media was there. We can help coordinate, provide that consultation, but that is the family's decision of what they film and what they put out.
Fox 10, Dustin.
Agent Yonke, this one's for you. Following up on that video that was released yesterday, it said, ultimately any further action is decided on by the fans, and since then have they expressed more interest in more efforts to try and get in contact with who is behind the ransom letter, and do you have a crisis or any sort of hostage negotiator with your team for that type of situation if it moves forward?
So the two parts to that question I think it's pretty clear. The family wants to be contacted. They know time is of the essence, and if those that may have Nancy are watching this, the family is ready to talk, get proof of life, because there has been no contact after that ransom note went to the media. For your second question, yes, we have crisis negotiators. That is part of our team here locally, along with the personnel we brought in from Quantico, and they will be part of it, but we're not going to go beyond that of any specifics.
Sheriff Nanos, taking down the crime scene perimeter after Monday's investigation and really opening access to that property to everyone else, was that something you would do differently looking back, knowing that federal authorities also conducted a search yesterday? Would you have kept that perimeter up, knowing that?
Monday morning quarterback, I probably would have, but I'll say this. We processed the scene. We got what we thought was complete. My team did that. I have to have all the faith and trust in their abilities and their skills, and I think they went through that pretty well. But because another agency now steps in and wants to assist, we're just like with you, we're an open book. Absolutely. How can we help? One of the things people don't see, I heard your question about, and we left and then others can walk up. When we process a scene and we're done, we return that scene to in this case, the homeowners, the family. And we don't just go march back in there. We call the family again and get permissions to go back to the home. So yeah, there's, again, Monday morning quarterback, absolutely. I probably could have held off on that. We knew that the FBI, we'd worked with them before in a lot of cases, and we felt like they could be of help in this with particularly the forensic analysis we use in a number of things. But at the start of this thing, we weren't sure what we had. And as the day progressed, we realized that there could be more to this. And we started in that Remember, it was a search and rescue mission the first few hours. And we transitioned that over to a criminal investigation. With that, brought in our partners from the FBI and others.
Have you heard from President
Univision,
Trump?
Claudia
Resources?
Univision, Claudia
I was actually going to ask about that. We saw the message yesterday.
Are you next?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Univision. Following up on that, we saw the message from the president yesterday. Have you personally received any communication from him or others?
No, and I wouldn't expect that. He too is a busy man, right? And I would say this: we thank him for him opening up his entire law enforcement team, as was put out yesterday, and we know, I know my local reporters here know. We've always worked well with all of our partners in law enforcement. Maybe it's something unique to Southern Arizona, and the rest of the country doesn't see that, but this isn't new for us. We've done this. Gabby Giffords, I headed up that investigation many years ago, and we worked side by side. Could not have got things done if we weren't with the FBI on that.
And just the other question, this being a border state, have you guys had any communication with Mexican authorities?
I have not. I work closely with the Mexican consulate, as other consulates, being the sheriff, but no, I've not heard from them.
Arizona, Univision, Monterrey.
Hi, Sheriff. My question is, do you know, it's a two-part question, do you know what medication Nancy uses? And have you checked local pharmacies and pharmacies around the state where they block or say this medication to keep her alive, keep her healthy, while we still look for her?
So we do know what medications, and we have contacted pharmacies. Probably need to go back to just make sure that they didn't, maybe we contacted them early on. I know that night, Sunday night, Saturday night, Sunday morning, I know we were doing all the hospital checks, and that check was continuous every hour, going back out. And physically in person, deputies were going to each local area hospital and asking them to check their logs.
My second question here is, I know you're looking for her in Pima County. Are you looking for her across the state now? And if so, is there a particular area that you're looking at right now?
Well, we're looking for her everywhere, right? But the FBI just made an arrest on a tip that we got that we thought there could be something here. There's it's statewide. The billboards are going to be out there across the country. We take leads from everywhere, and where those leads take us, we'll get there.
MS Now, Alex Talbot.
Agent Yankee, do you have any reason to believe that Nancy Guthrie may be being held outside of the country? Is that something that you ruled out at this point?
We don't have any of that information. We haven't ruled anything out. Like the sheriff said, we will follow the facts wherever they take us, whether it is outside of the state of Arizona or over the border. We will follow the facts and go there. But we have no indication anything over the Mexican border.
And you mentioned on the ransom note there were details about the Apple Watch and the floodlight.
Yep.
The ransom notes that were sent out to TMZ, KGUN, and KOLD, are they all the same ransom note? Do they contain the same details? Each of those individual ransom notes?
The ones that I am tracking and aware of were the same. That went to TMZ also.
News Nation, Brian Henson.
Agent Yankee, sorry.
Yes.
When did the first ransom note arrive? And the reason I asked is because the Apple Watch has been in the news and on social media, and you could see like floodlights on video. So was it before those things were out in the world?
I don't have the specific time frame, as I said here today, of what time it came in, but that you are right.
I've got a list. You've got a list. It stood out to me, first of all, that they believe she is still alive. But when asked if they'd had proof of life, they did not offer any. And in fact, they said that the blood that we've seen pictures of on the porch right outside the door did come back as, in fact, Nancy Guthrie's blood. That's got to be concerning to everyone involved. What else stood out to you? We got a timeline, which was remarkable.
The timeline was 1:47 a.m.
I mean, I think it's crazy that nobody there, asking questions, like no reporters, nobody, not even these news people. Nobody mentioned the fact that he said Saturday night and he never corrected himself. I think that's crazy. A lot. And again, people are like, maybe he just misspoke. He's overwhelmed. There's a lot going on. This is a big case. He's got a lot on his mind. But I say, no, I'm calling nonsense. I'm calling nonsense because how do you forget 4 days? You're 4 days in. How do you forget which day this whole thing started? And how do you mix up night from day? I mean, please explain this to me. If you think, speak up.
The doorbell camera was disabled, and later the sheriff there said that That doorbell camera is not in their possession. 2:12 a.m. The software detects a person there in the home. They believe to be a person, but there's no image. 2:28 a.m. The pacemaker worn by Nancy Guthrie disconnected from the phone, from the app on the phone. So that to me is that key timeline. It's about 45 minutes where it appears that somebody was at that house.
Yeah.
Now the friend that Nancy was supposed to go see, that she was supposed to go watch church with, supposedly she didn't show up, and the friend is the one who called Annie and told her that her mother did not show up. Annie then went to the home and seen that her mom was missing, and things went from there. But I think it's interesting that we have not heard from that friend. You know what I mean? It's just odd to me. Like, we haven't heard from anybody in Nancy's life except from her family. And again, I've said this before. Why are we hearing? I understand that usually in a case, one family member will be the spokesperson for the family. And I understand that they picked Savannah to do this because of her career and who she is, right? But why are we not hearing from Annie? The person who spent the most time with the mother, the person who was supposed to be the one to care for Nancy. Why have we not heard from her and her husband? And a lot of people are going to say, well, they've been kind of scrutinized in the eyes of the public. Yeah, but do you think by you not speaking is going to stop that speculation? No. So Savannah lives in New York, not in Arizona. Let's hear from the people who took care of Nancy. Let's hear from Annie and Tommaso.
Yeah, and there's a word that they used in the timeline. Again, this is a timeline put together not by journalists, but by law enforcement and then presented to a room of journalists. The doorbell camera disconnected. That word to me sounds like someone took an initiative to cut something off, or the battery dropped out at that point. What do you make of that word choice?
I mean,
I thought that was really interesting. And it also spoke to knowledge of how that doorbell cam works. Potentially, had somebody cased that prior, that was very interesting that they could successfully disable it in that way. And they knew that there was.
I'm with you there, because I would be the same exact way with my mother. If that was my mother, I'd be like, listen, you freaking people can point the finger at me all you want, but I'm here. I'm boots on the ground. I'm, trying to find my mother. You know what I mean? It's the whole thing is just whacked. And then, I mean, if you guys have not seen my previous videos on Nancy, on this case, I'd really appreciate it if you go back and watch them, because from the beginning, I've been like, wait a minute, this is not adding up.
The doorbell camera there.
Whoops. It just is not.
And they didn't want to show up in that footage.
We had an hour-long briefing. We have a timeline that is fuller than before. We have repeatedly law enforcement saying we have no suspect. We have no person of interest. At one point, Sheriff Nanos said, we got nobody. And in that way, we still consider everybody a potential suspect. Are you surprised 5 days in that the combined efforts of the sheriff and the FBI have led to still nothing?
It is surprising, I have to say. It's just a wide range of people. There was an Uber driver that picked her up and took her to dinner at her daughter Annie Guthrie's home. So that person was interviewed. The person who cleans the pool, the gardener, also.
Oh, and speaking of that, that's another thing, is that while Nancy was missing, that not too awful many days later, I mean, they had at the request of the family, which we're talking Annie and Tommaso, the pool cleaners were there maintaining the pool. The landscapers were there. There was people there working on the sprinklers. Now, I'm just saying that if my mom was missing, the last thing I would be worried about is keeping up the pool. Like, to me, that's just odd. And I don't care what anybody says. All these things, I mean, there's plenty of reasons why people question the family members. And Savannah can sit there and say till she's blue in the face that, Annie and nobody was a better caretaker nobody were better caretakers than Annie and Tommaso. But from what we've seen and what we know, I just don't believe that to be true. Why was she alone in that house with no security cameras and no, you know what I mean? No subscription. I mean, why didn't her daughter make sure that that was taken care of? Why was a mother who could barely walk told to get into an Uber and drive to her daughter's house instead of her daughter or her husband picking her up? Like those two, just those two things right there are huge red flags for me. I mean, what do you guys think?
Oh, the son-in-law was the last person to drop her off after that dinner. And there were a lot of questions about that. And the sheriff had told us previously that he saw that she safely got inside the house. In fact, we learned a little bit more details. The garage door was opened and then closed.
And on the subject of inside the house, I thought it was remarkable that after widespread reports for days about forced entry and the concerning circumstances of her disappearance, they say, we're not going to comment actually on whether it was forced or not. If it's not forced, why not say that? If it is forced, why not say that?
To me, that.
Yeah, and now we know. We may not have known at day 5 or 4. But now we know that there was no forced entry and there was not an attempted robbery.
Signals that that is a very crucial part of this investigation. They do not want to confirm or deny that there was forced entry. If there's not forced entry, that points to somebody who had access to the home.
Yeah.
If there was, points to somebody who didn't. So that takes it in two very different directions.
Well, we're going to be covering all this tonight on the CBS Evening News. Anna, thank you very much. As I said, this is a story that has captured the nation's attention, captured its heart, and so many prayers today. You've been hearing the Pima County, Arizona Sheriff saying he does believe Nancy Guthrie is still out there, but admits there is no suspect or person of interest identified in the case as of yet. Our coverage will continue on CBS News 24/7, your local news, and also tonight on the CBS Evening News. This has been a CBS News Special Report. I'm Tony DeCopa.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us here on CBS News 24/7. Let's go back to this press conference in Tucson.
Not credible if there is no communication that follows up since you received it. Like, what's that timeline where you say, no proof of life, there's no more, this isn't credible?
I think we start to look at what the deadlines were in the note. First, I think it was 5 o'clock today. And then it had a second deadline after that. So we are continuing in a normal kidnapping case. There would be contact by now trying to discuss that. But those are the timeframes we are looking at as we move forward.
Are you able to say that second deadline that was given?
I don't have that with me right now. So thank you.
Sorry about that. Entertainment Tonight, Denny Directo.
Yes, my question actually is for Agent Youngee. There was a report that said the ransom came from an email that the FBI was actually looking into that IP address. Any update on that?
Nothing that I can release. Thank you.
And then also, there's also conflicting reports about who was the last person to actually see Nancy and drive her home. We know she took an Uber to Annie's house, but can you confirm whether it was Annie or her son-in-law Tommaso who took her home that night?
I think the timeline that the sheriff provided was a family member, but just family.
We're going to go with family.
Record TV, Vandry.
He said we're going to go with family. Oh, for crying out loud. We're going to go with family. Okay. We're going to go with that, or that's the truth. You know, like it's, for God's sake.
We are for national, so we're not familiar with the area, so we think that it's a remote area. So my question is, why is it so hard to track a car or something suspicious that have passed through the area at that time? How difficult it is, just throwing cameras around or something?
Yeah, you're talking about the challenges we face in some of being in a rural area like this. Those are challenges we face all the time. We'd love it to have all the cameras in what we would consider a more urban nature type area. But once you get out into the community, that's not the only part of Tucson that is that way. And we just find ways to overcome those challenges. We don't just disregard it. We still look at ways to find for example, ring cameras that might catch just a piece of something. It goes by, it doesn't catch the whole car. Those kinds of things. We don't give up. We still go out.
At least a car that came
I can't. We have cameras all over, and those things are being reviewed.
Arizona Republic, Richard Ramos.
I'm a different person, but
Did he get you?
It's the second one.
Was that you?
Sorry.
No.
All right. Thank you guys for keeping us honest. No, you already asked your question, so we're gonna go to the New York Times with Reese. And I apologize for getting your name wrong here, Reese. Tebow?
No, you're close.
Tebow.
Sure.
Hi.
The 212, the camera that detected movement at 212, was that a different camera than the one that was disconnected at 147, and where was it pointed?
We don't know that. We don't know which camera that was. When we did the software, it just told us that a person was detected, but I'm unaware of which camera that was.
There were multiple cameras and you're not sure.
Sure, there were multiple cameras at the home.
Okay. And is there a possibility that this is not a ransom situation? And if so, what else could it be?
Your guess is as good as mine. I would say absolutely there's a possibility that this is nothing to do with a kidnapping, but we cover all angles. We're not going to dismiss something until we actually know for a fact that it's one way or the other.
People Magazine, we have Janelle Bunker.
So I wanted a little more clarity to follow up on his. Is there anything more you can say? Was this actually targeted or not? Do you have any?
That's why we have the FBI to look at those areas where there may have been a target. Maybe it is a kidnapping, but no, we don't have anything to rule that out or to say it is.
And as far as the ransom notes, there was a part in there about Bitcoin. Are you looking into that now, investigating?
Yes, that's part of the investigation.
Can you go and elaborate any further if you found anything, or if there's any ties or any suspects tied to that Bitcoin?
There's not at this time.
Associated Press, Joel Goldendera.
Hi, Sheriff. Just a follow-up to
You're Joe?
I'm sorry.
You're Joe?
Goldendera.
Oh, I thought you said Joe. Okay.
Just a follow-up to a prior question. You had said early in the investigation that authorities don't believe Nancy Guthrie was targeted. Why don't authorities think that Nancy Guthrie was targeted?
Who said that? Who said they didn't
You had
think
said that early in the investigation.
Boy, if I said I absolutely misspoke. I target for DNA. We did a rush through and
took her to dinner at her daughter Annie Guthrie's home.
Can you just give us some sound on that? Because that's a big deal. That's within hours about the 5 p.m. deadline per the ransom note. They need that ransom.
We're not going to go into those specifics. Thank you.
5 p.m. Eastern? That's right. I know it's not.
The ransom note that was distributed to the media did make a demand for 5 p.m. today. And if a transfer wasn't made, then I think a second demand was for next Monday. We're not going to go beyond that, but that was the ransom note the media received.
To indicate what would happen if they didn't need that ransom.
We're not going to go into those specifics. Thank you.
5 p.m. Eastern? That's right. I know it's not. Arizona? It's 5 p.m.
I don't.
It's 5 p.m.
And then, sorry about that. Inside Edition, Jim Murray.
Special Agent Youngkie, given the fact that the FBI participated in the creation of this family video, does that suggest your belief that the author or authors of that ransom note, in fact, have Nancy Guthrie?
Again, we're taking the ransom note serious, and we are following that part of the investigation.
And does the fact that there is a ransom note suggest to you that Nancy Guthrie was taken specifically because she's Savannah's mom?
There's nothing to indicate that.
Thank you guys so much for all of your questions. The sheriff does have just one more note about what happens next year, or what doesn't happen next.
Well, it's what happens for us is we're going to continue working. For you though, I hope this worked out well for you. But right now, I have no plans to schedule any further press conferences unless we have some real evidence or something to bring up to you. It's pretty pointless to just keep hounding the same things over and over. And as Special Agent in Charge Yankee said, please give us some space, and that's not just physical space. Give us some space, give my team some time, because these things do take time and they are difficult. And everybody out there is really working hard. And mistakes are going to be made. And if I made them, mea culpa. It won't be the first mistake I've ever made. But more important than me is we want Nancy back. That's the key. Okay. So thank you very much, and thank you for your concern in this.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, in a story that grows more dire by the day, we have new details that we are learning in the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, the mother of Today Show co-host Savannah Guthrie. The Pima County Sheriff's Office just giving us an update on its investigation. A few very big headlines coming out of that, including there are no leads or suspects, but they are working around the clock. Another lead is that they are saying that they have a ransom note that was given to the media. They are taking it seriously, and there was a
okay. Okay, now I want to pull. Yep, backtracking. I mean, it's ridiculous. Okay. So this is Nancy Guthrie's missing persons poster as of today, according to the FBI website. Now, this was yesterday. This is Nancy Guthrie's missing poster from PCSD. This is the information according to the Arizona Department of Public Safety. So this is the FBI. Last seen at her residence, January 31st. She is considered to be a vulnerable adult with difficulty walking. Okay. Okay. She is 5'4", 150 pounds. Okay, so the timing's different on this one. She had not shown up for church. Family went to her residence. Nancy was not in the home. All her personal belongings, to include her wallet, cell phone, and vehicle, were still there, but she was nowhere to be found. Limited mobility. Okay. Okay, that one didn't even give a time, so okay. I mean, I just think there's so many things that don't make any sense or aren't, how do I want to put this? Not just that they don't make any sense, but it's like there's so much missing, and the things that we are getting are like, wait a minute, this doesn't add up. This doesn't make any sense. So I think everybody is fully in their right to question everything. And if we've learned anything from being in true crime, it's that a lot of times, now, not always, but a lot of times there are reasons to question what you are told, especially by a sheriff's office. And I've seen it in many, many different cases. Now, I'm not blaming the sheriff's office for anything in specific, but what I am saying is you have a sheriff who literally said that he was at Nancy's Saturday night. Just us. Saturday night. And I don't care what anybody says. Arizona, I know you understand where I'm coming from. You're not going to mix up day and night, not when it's such a high profile case. So what does this mean? If it wasn't a mistake and it was like a slip up, what does this even mean? I know it's crazy. Actually, as a matter of fact, I have a video, okay? There is, you know what? There is a website that they had set up, and it literally says that the report of her missing, and I showed all this, the report of her missing was taken in at 7 p.m. on the 31st. Now, I made a video and I immediately put it out because I was like, wait a minute. You have this that says the report was taken in at 7 p.m. when she supposedly wasn't even home from dinner yet from Annie's. You have it saying that at 7 p.m. the report came in, and then you have Nanos saying that he was there Saturday night. So are we being lied to about the whole timeline? Now, how it was explained, because people started passing it around and going, wait a minute, why does this say the 31st? They explained it that it was not called in on the 31st, but it was, but they put down the 31st as the last night seen, but that's not what it says. It literally says this report was filed on January 31st at 7 p.m. And I immediately saw this and I was like, what the hell? And then when I heard the sheriff say we were there Saturday night, I was like, okay, Okay, I might have to like not say anything and cover this case because like I at that point I was ready to be like, okay, what is happening here? Because what the public is being given is is just not correct. Like I felt like it was totally crazy to me. So Arizona, if you have not seen that video, please go back and watch it. Because it's wild. It is wild to see those two things put together, and it really does make you wonder. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm trying to say. I was like, well, wait a minute. If she wasn't dropped off home until 9:30 or 9:48, whatever, if she wasn't dropped off, how could this report come in at 7 p.m.? Unless we're not being told how it really happened. And again, we only know, according to them, I'm using quotations, but you can't see me. We only know that she came home because he said that the garage door was opened and then closed. They don't have any video evidence of her being home. They don't have any, there's like no proof except the garage door closing, which, by the way, not for nothing, anybody could do, especially anybody in her family. I'm just saying. So, yeah, I started to go, well, wait a second. When did whatever happened to her actually happen? You know what I mean? And are we being told the truth? Because again, and I'll say this again, this happened right after the e-files were dropped. And people could not stop talking about it. And then this happens. And it seemed like all the media, all the YouTubers, like everybody just was focused on Nancy's case. And my first thought was like, okay, is this just a distraction from what's in those files, from people talking about what's in those files? Is this just a distraction for the people? Right? You know what I'm saying? And of course, again, everything is just theory and speculation and opinions. Nothing is fact, okay? But I started to think that, and then when I had seen this report for the date and time, and then I had heard Sheriff Nanos say that they were at her house Saturday night, and again, I'm with you, like how can you make that mistake? I started to go, well, wait a minute, did something happen to Nancy, like let's say a heart attack or something, and they used this whole thing as like as some type of distraction. Now, again, I'm not stating that's what happened, but I'm not going to lie. My mind did go there because I know how, we know how crazy this world is, and you just never know. But now, like to this day, I still think that none of this shit makes sense. None of it adds up. And, take that for what it is. Take that for what you will. But again, please hit that like button if you have not already done so. Please consider subscribing to the channel. Consider becoming a member of the family and joining the CNY family. We would love to have you guys. We love and appreciate all of you. And again, I hate to do this, but if you guys can help us, our family is in a kind of a dire, urgent situation right now. So if you guys can help, please consider doing so. Every little bit adds up. Every little bit helps. Everything is appreciated. The links are all down in the description below. I'm going to end this one here. If you're watching this on replay, let me know what you think down in the comment section below. If you guys are in here right now and you want to help support the channel and push this channel, please come back and comment in the comment section your thoughts, emojis, whatever you want. Just leave some comments. All right, I'm going to end this one here. I love you guys. Stay strong, stay healthy, stay safe. Keep asking those hard questions. Keep spreading that light, and I will see you all next time.